So today we are going to be talking about writing, creativity, a little bit of Substack strategy, and we're just going to start off with some questions, intro of myself and AJ, and then if anyone has questions at the end, feel free to ask anything, and we'll get into a discussion about them. But
Yeah,
just to kick things off, I'm really excited to talk to you, AJ, today because, Katie's here. AJ and I are in the human approach with Justin Schumann together, and we'll say a little bit about what that is. But AJ, do you want to give a little like background on yourself and the exciting projects that you're working on?
sure. Yeah. I'm really excited to be talking to Ashley about creativity and writing because that's like my bread and butter. I am a lifelong writer and I published more than a dozen books in past years, but I have recently kind of rebranded, going out there with my under my married name and launching fresh. Found my amazing agent in 2022, and I have moved from a career in biology to writing full time. And I'm so excited to be able to bring my science background into my writing. And I have a middle grade nonfiction book that's going to come out in fall of 2027. It was just officially announced a few days ago. It's called Hot Cities. It's about the urban heat island effect, about the fact that cities are hotter than the countryside because of various reasons, that we're giving off heat in the cities and trapping more of the sun's heat, and it causes all kinds of problems. And this is for middle grade students. That's readers ages 9 to 12, because this is a topic that's going to affect them in the future. And it's also a great one for that age range because they can actually do something about it. Like there's things they can do in their own neighborhood. So sorry, there's a little aside about my upcoming book, but
Oh, that's really exciting.
I'm
And
I
I did a little digging, and I you have a PhD in biology and an MA in anthropology. That's
right.
like I'm gonna brag for you.
Maybe I've done a few too many things. So I love the phrase, like people say, oh, jack of all trades, and it's used like as a diss sometimes. But the original phrase is jack of all trades, but master of none is oftentimes better than a master of one. And so I'm like, okay, good, good. It's actually a
Yeah.
good thing to have done a lot of different things. So basically now I write full time for younger kids. Like Hot Cities is under my maiden name, Alexandra Vibolo, and then under my initials and married name, AJ Van Bell. I write for adults and teenagers, a little bit heavier and darker stuff sometimes. And I'm also a literary agent, and I had been interning in that for a couple of years and have worked in publishing in various capacities for decades, but am new to actually being an agent as of January of this year. So I've been signing some amazing clients, and I'm really excited about that too. So that's a little bit about me. Ashley, why don't you tell us about yourself as well?
All right. Yeah, thanks. That's I'm so excited for you. And yeah, you could brag a lot more. AJ's written several books, and she has or sorry, we are, my pronouns are she, her, and
Mine are they, them. I am
yeah,
I am trans masculine. I'm not transitioned, so I do have a femme appearance, but so I'm they, them.
thank you. Thank you. Um Yeah, what was I just saying? Oh, yeah, you've written so much. I think that you have such a distinctive voice. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about developing a voice online through writing. Um, my background is, yeah, I've been a writer, writing a journal and like stream of consciousness writing since 1993, and I've been on Substack for 2 years now, and my background is communications. I worked 16 years as a communication manager, government, retail, diamonds. I wrote investor newsletters, and I wrote a column for the Yukon newspaper for 1 year in 2008. But writing has always been this thing that is like helped me process my life experience. And for me, it feels like breathing. Like I need to write to understand myself and understand my experience. But it's always been something that I've come up against resistance as well. It's always been, and sharing it as well, it has been
Mm.
a real struggle, like to put my words, my brain, my thoughts out onto paper and share it with other people has been terrifying. So doing a Substack blog has been my first real push, I guess. Well, not first. I've shared publicly before, but I've often retreated after sharing publicly. I guess it's been my first like consistent, just continuously putting something out there. Yeah, and on the side from that, I teach fitness. I'm a bar and Pilates instructor, and I'm also an actor or a professional auditioner. And there's a lot of like crossover with acting and writing and thinking about character and voice and who your audience is, who you're speaking to. So I often pull on some of my acting background when I'm writing, and we can get more into that as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, I was actually thinking just before we started that I wanted to ask you how your acting and writing relate and support each other because they definitely have a lot of crossover.
Yeah, I mean, it pops up in ways that sometimes I don't really expect, but if I'm struggling to find um like almost like I don't know who I'm writing to,
Mm.
I will think of a friend, or I'll think of like one singular person, and I often do that when I'm acting. I do a lot of Hallmark auditions and like the best
Mm.
friend, and I'll often like picture certain friends of mine in order to get a tone or a feeling in the scene. And I do the same thing with writing. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
myriad of ways as well. But we can jump into maybe um, we're gonna get into voice and like how we cultivate a distinct type of voice in our writing, but we could talk a little bit about how we met.
Yeah.
Yeah, through the human approach. Do you want to take it away?
Or yeah, it's a group coaching program for developing your authentic presence in your online presence, to be redundant there, but it's because I think maybe not all of us, but almost all of us struggle with like how to be our authentic selves online while also staying safe, sharing genuinely and appropriately. And then also, a lot of us got into it because we were learning to share in video format, which has its own whole set of challenges. Like you hold up your phone and you basically talk to your own face. And a lot of us who might be really comfortable in other contexts, even in like Ashley and I have both done a lot of things where we're presenting to a group, whether small or large. And that for me is really comfortable because I've done it a lot and those people are really there and I can see them and I can relate to them and I can feel their energy and vibe with it. And when I first started doing like TikTok videos, I would, look at my own face on my phone and try to talk to myself and it felt really awkward and I didn't know what to say. And so I got into this program because Justin basically had worked his own way from that awkwardness into really knowing how to show up and discovered that he had a gift for helping other people show up as their authentic selves. And it has certainly helped me, and it's also spilled over into other areas of life. And we'll talk about that too, like that knowing how to show up, knowing how to kind of clear the stuff away and be present, whether it's in a video or on the page or in some other form of creation. It's all kind of related. But anyway, that's how Ashley and I met. Like every Friday morning, we're in a group, and it's generally a pretty small group, and we get to share and discuss.
Yeah, something you said about learning how to figuring out how to share like share authentically and appropriately is a really interesting topic because Um, like one thing that we talk about is not sharing unprocessed trauma, and
Mhm.
that I always found like I'm so drawn to memoir writing, personal essays, and finding that line of like what what personal stories and anecdotes I want to share, what I'm comfortable with sharing, what shows parts of myself authentically.
Mhm.
Yet, sometimes, I'll share something and I'll have a vulnerability hangover. I experience that sometimes from my writing, and I'm like, did I overshare? There's this funny saying, like, I don't want to be a trauma story with a ring light, but at the same
Oh,
time, I do really want to share myself, and I almost feel like, oh, some of my favorite writers, they write so close to the bone. They really let you in on a world. And I know there's differences between fiction and nonfiction, but when we can talk about that, like and we were talking about that once before. Like a lot of fiction writers, like they put their lives into their fiction. It's just a character, or it's maybe a mask in which they can maybe protect themselves from being so vulnerable, but they all are vulnerable. Yeah, I'd be curious to what you think about that.
I think there's so many sides to that, and it's a fascinating topic. Like definitely makes sense that when we're sharing real stuff about our lives, not that we have to have perfectly processed everything before we share it, but being at least sharing things that we have had a chance to reflect on and have some perspective on is probably, it makes the difference between sharing in a way that is constructive for us to do and meaningful to the people that are taking it in versus the, like you said, a uh, trauma
Trauma.
experience with a ring light. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fiction, I think it comes into our writing in so many ways, like our own experiences do. I have found that I will see stuff from my life in my writing after the fact. And it's it's stuff that, oh, and I apologize for background noise. I hope it's not too bad. Is it showing
No,
up too
it's
much on
not
your
bad.
end?
No, it's not
Okay, good.
bad.
Um, what I what I find is that I look at some of what I've written and then afterwards see where it came from. And I've seen things that are like they're not at all like a retelling of my life, but they will parallel experiences from my life in ways that I like was just not planning at all and go, oh my gosh, look at what I did there. And then I have also found that inadvertently, like I was writing a story because I enjoyed writing it, but then I found that it changed me. It was
Mm,
incredibly healing to do that. And one of the things that has been the most that way was my sci-fi series, which is on submission, which for anybody that doesn't know what on submission means, that means that my agent is sending the manuscript to editors at major publishers who then evaluate it to see if it's right for their imprint. And most of those imprints don't take submissions directly from authors. So my agent has to be the one to send it. But this sci-fi series is something that I had been working on in earnest since 2018, in the back of my mind for much longer than that. And uh, I, it's been one of the most healing things for me to work on over these last few years because it has a main character. It's an ensemble cast, but the main character goes through a kind of disenfranchisement that parallels something I experienced in my early life. That has been throughout my life very hard to share or find anybody that could really relate to it. And then this character is this side of me that survived that. And her experiences starting in a small insular community and then becoming a space outlaw have just I saw things as she developed. I thought she was this really angry person that it was going to be difficult to write from her point of view. And then as she developed over the course of writing this series, I saw what a beautiful person she actually was. And she didn't give herself credit for that, but she actually just would do anything for a friend or a loved one, and had these adorable foibles of all these things that, like, and she'd been isolated for a really long time when the series starts. So there's some things that she just doesn't get, like having guests at her on her spaceship and trying to feed them freaks her out. But she's incredibly competent in ridiculously difficult situations. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm telling myself things about myself, not directly paralleling, like trying to make rice for guests wouldn't freak me out. But, you know, it was just so much about her nature. It gave me this reflection so that I could see myself more clearly. And I think writing fiction does that for us so often. It allows us to heal, just like children grow and heal through play. It's like a
Mhm.
form of adult play where we can, like, almost do, if you've heard of, have you heard of the concept of revision to heal past trauma?
Well, I've heard it like in hypnotherapy, age regression, where you go back and re-narrate a past experience. Is that similar?
Yeah, yeah, it's super
Yeah.
similar. It's like going back. I've heard it that it's good to do before you go to sleep. You go back and revise. Some versions say to revise how you see the experience.
Mhm.
And some versions say to actually imagine that you did something different or something happened differently so that it all came out the way you wish it had. And it'll actually change your present. It'll change your energy. And I think writing can do that. Like, it
Yeah.
helps rewrite the traumas into something we can understand, helps us see who we really are.
Yeah. 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 Oh, you give us so much to chew on. That um absolutely. I think that's one reason I write is it's all processing my life and um but it's interesting through fiction versus memoir. I almost like I'm starting to want to write fiction because I feel like I could potentially explore more ground than I'm
Ah,
willing to do in memoir style. But going back to something you said about how when you're the character, you felt like, oh, I'm not going to be able to express through them because they're angry, like they're
yeah.
you. Um, but something happened. You changed. You made your character more complex. Like you
Mm.
showed a different side or you explored a different side. And I find
Mm.
even in memoir writing, it's similar. Like if I'm writing about something and it's like a mood or an emotion, like I'm going into something, if I can write through it and find another another nuance through it, like you can show another facet of yourself in memoir writing, but in fiction, I yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's almost as you start to tell a story, whether it's fictional or it's your own story, you end up seeing there's so much more to it than you realized when you were just putting it in a category. Like, you might go, okay, this character is angry, or at this time in my life, uh, you know, everything sucked, or whatever it is, and then you start writing about it, and you realize, oh, there's always more complexity to it. And hi, Amadina.
Hi, I'm Medina.
Did we
Um,
lose everybody else, or?
maybe it's
Hmm.
because it says, yeah, there's just one. Maybe. I'm not we'll keep going. Nice to have you, Medea.
Yeah,
We're just talking about voice and character. Oh, can you hear me okay?
I can still hear you.
Okay, one just died. Here we go.
Oh, Katie's
Uh,
still here. Yeah, I think our little view thing is just the count is wrong. I think we've still
okay.
got people with
Okay.
us. So, yeah, so we'll keep going.
Um, all right, yeah. Um, I was listening to a podcast with this Substack writer named Sarah Fay earlier today, and if anyone is interested in getting on Substack, she has a pretty good one for tips and like all sorts of Substack related stuff. But she was talking about voice and like how often we show up as our writerly selves, like, and there's this feeling of like, I need to write properly, but it's really what we're talking about, bringing your weird, wacky self, like whoever you are, or if it's a character, bringing those eccentricities to the words. I've been lately saying to myself, what am I going to create in my weird little garden today? Like something about
Oh,
saying my
nice.
weird little garden, like helps me not approach things with such perfection or like wanting to do it right. Um, but yeah, do you have any thoughts about how do we show up on the page and
Mm.
bring more of a distinct voice? Like, what are little things? I find personally humor is something I
Mhm.
rely heavily on to show more of myself. Um, but I know there's other things like attitude. Your attitude towards the subject is often part of your voice. How you feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and humor is something that has been helpful to me in writing Substack. So I'm really new to Substack, so we kind of have these perspectives from different points in the journey because Ashley's been on Substack for quite a while, and I'm pretty new to it. I've only done a couple of newsletters, but in doing those newsletters, which especially if you're an author and you know that a newsletter is an important part of your career, you can put too much importance on it because it's just going to show up in people's inboxes. And like, what are they going to think? What do they want to read? Do they even care if they read anything? Well, that can be a little bit too much. So I went to a mindset of more like, I'm just going to sit here and talk on the page and talk with a kind of a bit of humor and spunk. And that I found really helpful. Not humor like jokes, but just having some voice in it, having some like, hey, how are you doing? And I'm really excited about this thing. And things like I would actually say to a family member, I just put them on the page and it made a way better newsletter than if I'd been all serious about it. So that's what I've seen with that so far. And then speaking more broadly to like bringing yourself to the page and writing, a a lot of getting that ability to be authentic on the page comes with practice. And that's the same thing that we found in doing videos as it's a matter of practice. And I
Yeah.
haven't done nearly as many videos as I have done writing. So I know that that's somewhere where I have farther to go, like, to get that sense of like just press record and just, you can trust that you'll just be yourself and it will just be right there. Um, that still can be a bit hit or miss for me in video. But in writing, I've been doing that for so long, my whole life, that I know how to kind of shift my mindset. It's almost a certain kind of meditative state and just allow myself to flow onto the page. And I know that that comes from trusting the process and knowing also that whatever comes out is okay because you can always edit later. There's no wrong way to do it. So those are some of the things that help me with being able to get stuff down on the page and be my real self with it.
Yeah, that's
What
great.
what helps you in writing? Because you've done this writing in so many different contexts. In addition to journal writing, you've also done all of this content creation for businesses. So you've probably
Yeah.
learned along the way there.
Um, Katie just said, I love your videos, AJ. Me too.
Oh, thank you, Phoebe. I love yours too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I recently just watched a whole bunch of them and I've noticed a change in, I don't know what it is exactly in your videos, but I've noticed like they just have such nuggets of wisdom in them and
uh-huh.
they're so clear, and yeah, there's some real wisdom in there. I highly recommend people check your TikToks out. But what you're saying, what helps me, or you were asking what helps me like keep the flow going. I mean,
Yeah.
lately, I am someone who gets stuck from moods. Like I'm highly, um, I have to write early in the morning when my energy's high. So, like, really
Mm.
finding the time of day that works for me to write is crucial, and it's right when I get up in the morning. I'm, like, got my coffee and my
Yeah.
adrenaline's higher in the morning. But, I've learned to if anything sparks my interest, I try to jot it down. And it's so easy to ignore those things, like,
Mhm.
"Oh, it's nothing," "Yeah, it was a good podcast, but, I won't jot that little note down." But I've found that it is those little breadcrumbs that always turn out into something. Um, yeah, and
That
and
is
so
super smart. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Isn't it funny how it's so often like there's of course the shower phenomenon, and then there's also like the driving or making dinner or having a conversation with somebody about something totally different when you can't write it down. And that's so often when the ideas come to us. Mm.
Yeah, and you actually I was watching a video and you were talking about that idea of I can't remember if it was synchronicity, but you're talking about how
Mhm.
you followed up on an experience, you went and did something, and it opened up this whole other
Yeah.
experience, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm talking about with the breadcrumbs, like, it's so easy to ignore them or be like, "Oh," like, just shrug things off, but I'm stopping myself from doing that anymore because I find if something interests you and there's this amazing quote from this book I'm reading right now, and it's by Verlin Klinkenberg. It's called "Several Short Sentences About Writing," and it's about paring down writing and getting to just writing shorter sentences. Yeah. Anyways, that's a other subject. But he says the way you get better at writing is learn to recognize what you are interested in. Learn to
Uh,
recognize what interests you. We often
yeah.
don't recognize or validate that what interests us is the thing that is our authenticity. Like it is a part of our personality. It's who we are. So you have
Yeah.
to notice those things, note them, and those things become the themes that you write about, talk about, or make videos about, whatever it is, whatever your medium is.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, what we sometimes need to recognize is that if something interests us, it will interest other people too. And if we're
Hmm.
excited about it, then number one, that's a sign that we probably should be like that's part of our flow. That's something that we should be writing about or talking about, whatever the case may be. And also, like that's going to be catching. Other people are going to pick up on that feeling too. I don't know if you've seen a writer Rachel Aaron she has this. It was originally like a long blog post, and then she put up an expanded version as a short ebook. It's called From 2K to 10K. It's how she went from writing 2,000 words a day to writing 10,000 words a day, and she like really breaks it down step by step. And 2,000 words a day already is pretty good. But she started regularly doing 10K words a day by a number of steps. And one of the really important ones was that she realized that she was writing only sometimes these things that she called candy bar scenes. Like the scenes that she knew she wanted to write in her book that she was really excited about, they were going to be really tasty. And then she realized that if something was boring for her to write, it was going to be boring for other people. But then likewise, if something for her was enticing and tasty like a candy bar, then it was going to be that way for other people too. So she was like, wait, why don't I just write the candy bar scenes? And like when you really focus on what you're excited about, it's going to be super fun for other people too.
Yeah, that's really good advice. That's really good advice. Um, yeah, I I'm gonna keep that advice for myself. I like that, the candy bar scenes. Thinking about Substack, do you have, like, a why statement for your Substack?
Mm.
You know, like, why you're doing it? Like, what's the heart behind it? Simon Sinek, he has the "What's your why?" I don't know if you ever saw that video that went viral. He says,
I don't
"People"
think I saw that one. No.
I mean, he was talking more about products, but the idea that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do. And I
Hmm.
think it's similar to writing or like Substack. People will subscribe because they want to subscribe to you. It's not necessarily,
Yeah.
yeah. Have you thought about that for I know you have two Substacks.
Yeah, because I do have two different names because they need to be sort of separate brands, like the writing for the younger crowd and more mature. Um, I hadn't created a statement, but it's a really interesting thing to think about because, like, I kind of initially was like, oh, like authors need to have newsletters. But now, as I've gotten my feet wet with it, I feel like it's such a great way to connect with readers and other writers. And I want it to grow so like, I almost see our connections that we have to other people like they're an invisible web. Like, it's like there's lines of light that go out from us to all the other people that we're connected to in all kinds of different ways. And this is a way to strengthen those connections and make more of them and just have people that I get to learn from, have that connection with, and that might benefit from my work. Another way for people to find out that I exist. So it's kind of yeah. I mean, the simple version is networking with readers and writers for sure.
Yeah. I love that analogy of the invisible web. I feel that big time on Substack. And if
Mhm.
anyone's new to Substack here and you're thinking about um, starting one, think of it. Actually, Substack's all about engagement, and they talk about being a good Substack citizen and actually getting engagement on your Substack. You'll start with like your friends and family. Those are your subscribers. That's where we all start. But when you start getting subscribers coming to you from the Substack app, it's often because you've engaged on a comment, somewhere, and they've found you. That's how I've gotten most like people I don't know who are subscribers.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because it's deeply connected. Like it's
Mhm.
all I subscribe. I don't even know how many Substacks I subscribe to, but at least 25. And I am constantly
Mhm.
unsubscribing and um and then resubscribing to new ones, but they're all some sort of form of interest, like a thread that I'm following, and I'll comment on their post about their post, and it's often something I'm deeply interested in. So there's this cyclical thing that happens when you're engaging in other Substackers who are interesting to you. Um, yeah. So
Yeah,
what's that?
we have the question about whether I'm on Instagram, and I am. I am across platforms as at AJ Van Bell. Blue Sky, it's at AJ Van Bell, bluesky.social. Um, so you can find me most places as
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, definitely all the platforms. I saw a comment earlier from Amadia as well about your goal is to get or your why was to um teach people about travel for less, or
Hmm.
sorry, Amadia, I'm butchering that because the comment went away. But I also saw you said, and to become a better writer. I would just really recommend like subscribing to Substacks that interest you and around the subject matter you're interested in, and commenting on them. And like AJ was saying, it's like this web that happens, this interconnectedness, and you start feeling it. Like, um, I've had people say they're willing to help me in whatever way capacity, in whatever capacity possible. Um,
Mhm.
you start creating a little community online through your writing and their writing, and it's just like, it is this web. It's an invisible web. And yeah, Substack's all about the engagement right now.
And that's really nice. Like I feel like these some of these newer platforms, new being relative, but there are some platforms now that there's a really good opportunity for authentic engagement. And then there are others where it's not as much and it's a bit more skewed that like only the most viral things go more viral. But there's still a lot of opportunity for really really connecting with people. We just had a hummingbird just came and flew around here, which was really cool. We get quite a few of them here.
Oh, that's awesome. Hummingbird, am I oh, I shouldn't share this. Okay, no, I'm not gonna share that. I was gonna say I got a hummingbird pendant when I was coming of age when I was like 11, as a
Mhm.
young girl, and it represents maturity. It was
Oh,
a First
interesting.
Nation, pendant, and it represented maturity.
Oh,
Interesting.
that's really cool. Yeah, I think they're also a symbol of some other things that I can't remember right now, but they're a really positive
Yeah,
symbol.
they're so beautiful. Um, with that, like, staying on the subject of the why, I'm still always changing, not always changing, but my why for my Substack is, initially my Substack's Wannabe Wisdom, Diaries of a Fake Guru, and it's kind of funny how that came about. I was struggling with imposter syndrome. I had wanted to write a blog for a very long time, and I was in a writers group,
Mhm.
and my friend Jay told me about Substack, and, I thought, I was so sick of being scared of sharing my writing with people that being sick of myself, made me override the fear, but I still needed a vehicle to tackle it.
Mhm.
And I really brainstormed for a long time. I came up, you know what? Like I love self-help, but I'm also allergic to the cliche of self-help.
Mhm.
And I knew I wanted to
Okay.
write some form of self-help, but so I came up with the title "Wanna Be Wisdom." Like, okay, I can offer my wisdom. It's not necessarily going to be everyone else's wisdom, but under this umbrella, under this kind of brand, I felt it freed me up to share what I have to share without having it feeling like an imposter, you know? And
Oh,
so
yeah.
if anyone else struggles with that feeling, finding like, really sitting with it, meditating on it,
Mhm.
and finding what is your way in, what's going to allow you to be free to write, you know? If anyone has that, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'd be curious to know if other people struggle with that. I think it's a pretty common thing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's there are so many different ways. So that's a great question because there are a lot of different like I don't want to say tricks because it's not that they're inauthentic, but different means that we can use to kind of open the doors for ourselves. It's interesting, Ashley, that you had this ability to use the title of fake guru, and that has paradoxically allowed you to be not fake, like really be there. But I almost think of like I had a really good way this concept was expressed was a long time ago there was somebody that I dated that had this picture book about gurus, and there was like a good guru and a bad guru, and it said the bad guru like says that you need him, and he is the way to enlightenment, and the good guru is like, you don't need me, you're good. And it's like rather than a fake guru, you're a good guru because you don't have all the answers. You're not gonna tell people like, oh, this is the only way to do it, but you do have wisdom. So I just think that's really cool.
oh, thanks, AJ. You know, it's interesting. I was thinking about babies, and you know, when you're born and you grow into a toddler and you start speaking, words are our first way of like self-authorization. You know, we demand things when
Mm.
we learn to speak. We develop a sense of self through words, through language. And I know I had written this question to ask, like, can anyone be a writer? And I think I personally think yes. It like if
Yeah.
you have language, you can. You know, we as babies, we we started that process of self-authorization from a very young age.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing it's interesting to think about. And the whole process of language development is something that uh it's heavily studied and still not fully understood. Like there was like Noam Chomsky that had this idea that we sort of have this imprint in our mind and the language gets hung on that and our imprint is pre-existing. I'm probably butchering the expression of this idea, but he had that like really um kind of he thought that we acquired language in this rather formulaic way, and that's actually been disproven. Like we are more flexible in our language acquisition and can do more of it later in life than researchers used to think. So that's also kind of it raises the questions of like, if we're functioning in more than one language, how does that expand our thinking? And if we're acquiring language as adults or teenagers or whatever, whether it's learning another language or learning more in our native language, like reading different texts, like how are our brains growing and how are our capacities growing by doing that? And I think that we always have that capacity to grow more.
Yeah, I totally agree. Poetry is something I'm just starting to think about lately 'cause,
Mm.
um, I used to write poetry when I was young but I stopped and I had no desire really to read poetry but I
Mm.
recently read some poetry and it's sort of like sitting in a painting or something. Like it opens up facets of my thinking that just the traditional prose doesn't necessarily and um yeah, you just made me think of poetry as its own language as well.
That is really cool. Yeah. Yeah, that also does let us sort of grow to be more authentically ourselves too. Like working with the rhythm of language as well as the meaning. Although prose also uh like is about rhythm
Yeah.
and music. Like one of my critique partners talks about the music of the prose, and
Mhm.
that can also be really important.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And revision, just going over lines and sitting with them, like that's part of your voice as well. This is another thing I'm doing lately is rereading my work. And if I get any little like red flag or like little, like it's like it's a tuning thing of the ear. It's like listening to music. Is like if it pings,
Hmm.
like I have to go back and look at that because that's the intuition saying there's something off about that melody. There's something off about that line. It doesn't ring right. It's inauthentic or it's whatever it is. And
Yeah.
I think in the early days of writing, and I'm still developing it right now, but would ignore those things. And that's
Uh,
what you don't ignore, that's part of developing the ear and the voice.
yeah. Yeah. Just noticing that little ping
Yeah.
is just doing that takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like a lot of what we're saying is for anybody that is kind of earlier on their writing journey. It's like, or creation of anything else. It's like, yep, what you got to do is keep creating even when it's uncomfortable. And it will be uncomfortable in the beginning. And it always sometimes will. And just keep doing it anyway. And that's how you develop all of those skills.
Totally. It's like that's what I love Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art. Did you ever read that one? It's a
Oh,
nonfiction.
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
It's great. And
Mm.
his whole premise is ultimately that like resistance is the enemy of the creative person.
Mm.
Just
Okay.
the resistance you feel to do the thing you want to do. And he says comes a point in any person's life where you have to choose to turn pro. You have to choose to turn
Yeah.
pro, and what that means is this decision within yourself that you're going to stick to what you say you're gonna do. So if you say you're gonna write, for 20 minutes every day, get up, set that timer, write through the bad mood, write through the
Yeah.
resistance, whatever it is. And, for myself, when I started the Substack, I think that's when I made the choice to turn pro. I was like, "I'm going to commit to this," and a lot of my posts are about the kind of the mood I'm struggling with to write, or the writer's block,
Yeah. I'm sure that actually helps a lot of people because it's such a common experience. Like
Yeah.
exactly when you maybe do have the time to do your writing is often when it's like, oh, but I can't for this or that reason. And then you have to just do it anyway if you want it
Um,
to ever get done.
totally. What kind of blocks do you come into with your writing life? Like,
um,
or do you feel like you have it down to such a routine, like you can really push through? Or,
I wouldn't want to say, oh, I don't have blocks because like that would be, and we always deal with those things. And um I definitely wouldn't want to be saying that I don't deal with it. But I think at this point, I do have so many tools for doing the work and like being a pro at writing that it's not something I particularly worry about a lot. I can say kind of what the biggest things have been over the years. And for me in writing novels especially, one of my biggest things was that I would work intuitively from what I wanted the story to be, what shape I wanted to have, what I wanted the feelings to be, and logically getting from point A to point B, like working out what the events were that would make sense and would get where I needed the whole thing to go. Um, that was difficult for a while. That took me quite a few books to get to the point where it all flows and I'm not going, oh, okay, well, my characters um need to be right now they're at the house and then this next scene has to happen at the train station, but they don't have a car. How are they going to get to the train station? Like there was a lot of like, how do they get to the next
oh
point?
yeah,
Um, I also have tended to work from a feeling that is my inspiration. And I still have this sometimes, especially with short stories. So I will go, okay, I know the essence of this story, but what is its like actual physical challenge going
like
to
what?
be?
Like what
Yeah,
happens? What is the
yeah.
obstacle? What?
What physically happens in the story? What is
Yeah,
the literal obstacle that creates this feeling
yeah.
that is the magical inspiration that I've had? So that those things have been tough for me. And I know when I was first writing novels, like I sat down in 1992 determined to at that point I thought of it as finally finish a novel. Um and it's like been a writer all my life and I was like okay, I'm going to actually finish a novel and I set the goal of typing 2 pages a day and it was so hard it was like pulling teeth to get out my 2 pages a day. But then since then obviously what is that is it 33
You've
years
been
ago?
doing
Yeah.
it 33 years?
That's how long I've been writing novels. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, so just the more I wrote, the easier that got.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We have 10 minutes left. Oh my goodness, this went so fast. Like
Super fast. This is great.
so um yeah, this went so fast. If anyone has questions, drop them in the box. We'll keep going and there's a couple other I have many other questions, but well yeah, we'll answer a few more. If anyone has specific questions, feel free to drop them in or anything you're going through right now,
Oh,
maybe anything that's getting in your way of
yeah.
getting your first Substack post out or whatever um, post out, or if it's related to writing or anything creative, feel free to ask it. Just saying hi to my friend Alex, who's in here. He's from my hometown,
Mm.
Teslin.
Uh,
Hey,
oh,
Alex.
hi, Alex.
um,
Nice.
but yeah, I do have a little um sheet of things that I have learned along the last 2 years. It's gonna be 2 years since I started my Substack in June,
Ooh,
and
congratulations.
thank you. Growth is slow, but I mean, one thing one thing that's a really good thing to think about is if you have like one subscriber or like, you know, I have 95 now. 95, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have 95 people that are reading my essays. I mean, you know, they're not all going to read them, but think about if you have like two subscribers, or three or four or five, you have five people sitting in your house and you're telling them about something, a theme, a topic that's you're interested in. Like that is so special. You have
Yeah.
these five people listening to you, and I feel like when you start a Substack, if you can visualize that, you know, that you are providing something for these people who are interested in what you have to say, it makes it really feel special. And we can, in this
Mm.
world of like likes and validation and hey, someone subscribed. Hey, thanks, Joe. Oh, I have 96 now. um,
Nice.
but yeah, in this world of like, you know, the likes and the validation, we often are like, we feel like that's what we're going for. You kind of get addicted to that, and it's besides the point. And one reason I really love Substack is because it centers me back on what's important and connection with people through an idea or through a thing, you know? Um, so yeah, if anyone's just starting out, picture those couple people who are you're talking to. Yeah.
That's a great way to look at it. I really like that. It's it's easy to lose sight of the fact that even if it's a couple people or it's 96 people or whatever, it's that is so meaningful. And we can lose sight of it in the world of people looking for views in the hundreds of thousands and things like that. And that's one of the things I like about Substack is that um it's still considered like good and worthwhile when you have a number of subscribers that's like anything under 100, it's great. It's still good. You have subscribers instead of like just discounting it because those are all, like you say, real people that are listening to what you have to say.
Yeah, totally. And it's the other great thing about it is, um, it's an email list, you know, there's more substance to a Substack than other forms of
Mhm.
social media. You own your email list. If
Yeah.
Substack were to ever if something were to happen, you could export that email list and go create a website and have a newsletter somewhere else, you know, and it's important
Yeah.
as business people or as content creators to have some ownership in the content we're putting out there, especially when it comes
Absolutely.
to voice and ideas, because the world we're living in right now, we're seeing a lot more censorship happening on social
Mhm.
media platforms. That's definitely happening. But maybe for
Yeah.
this, oh, thanks, Mary. It's so great to have you. Have a great day, and yeah, we'll keep continuing with about 5 minutes left. Should I read through this little things I wish I knew? Maybe
Oh, sure. Yeah, that
yeah,
would
and
be
then
great. Yeah.
if you have any feedback, AJ, as I read through this, feel free. The first
Sure.
one I wrote is just start. Don't be precious. You know, one thing that
Mhm.
I had to accept for myself is I am where I am and I have to start wherever I am. And so I have this little mantra I say to myself where it's like, this is where I am right now. I may change, I may grow, but this is where I am right now. And my voice
Mhm.
matters. That helps me write when yeah, I'm stuck or I
Cool.
feel, yeah, go for it.
That's great advice, and it reminds me of something that my mom said to me when I was, I think, in my early 20s. Maybe even a little younger, like in my teens, because my mom was also a writer. And I had some ideas that I knew were really good ideas. But I was like, yeah, this must have been when I was like in my teens. And I was like, but I don't have the skills to do them justice. Like if I do it right now where I'm at when I'm like 16, it's not going to be the story that it would be if a master writer wrote it. And she said, the things you write now, you will never write at a later point in your life. So she said, write them down now because what you have to say right now is valuable. and it is special, and like don't lose that. So that's so much like, even if it's
Mhm.
a Substack post instead of like a novel, like whatever your or any other creative form, who you are right now will never really exist again. And that wonderful thing that you have to say right now is like, would it be more polished in a year when you have more experience? Sure. But how do you get that experience? Plus, your voice and your idea wouldn't be exactly the same.
Totally. I love that. I love that because we are addicted to this sense of we're becoming, and we will, when we get there, when
Mhm.
we get better at the thing, we will do but it's like right now we are a fully formed human being who
Yeah.
has something to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, I think can also get, uh, influenced by these preconceived notions that we get from society. Like when I was a teenager, I probably had these ideas because we have a lot of age prejudice toward both the young and the old. And I was probably here, well, you're just a teenager. What you have to say right now doesn't matter. But that's just a weird prejudice. Of course, I was a real full, like you say, fully formed human being, and what I had to say did matter. And I was really lucky to have a mom that had that wisdom.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. That is such an important point. That was like the first one. And we're not going to get through all these, but I think that's a really important point. If we leave on that note today, I
Oh,
think
yeah. And I
we have
we'll have to, if we do this again, then we go through the rest of the points. And yeah, each one is
like
probably a whole,
I
uh,
think I'll also, if people are interested, I will put this in a written post so people can read it. And yeah, exactly. Amadian
mm,
just said I can make it into a Substack post. I will. And a lot of
nice.
the stuff we went over, like the next one was people don't subscribe to your Substack, they subscribe to you. And we kind of chatted a little bit about that. Yeah, that's um the other one was, yeah, be a good Substack citizen, engaging with other articles, and it's just great. I've learned
Mhm.
so much through other people's Substacks. Thank you, everyone. I don't know if this is probably just gonna kick us off here in 30
Oh,
seconds, but
yeah, this is our first one, so
AJ,
we don't know yet. But
yeah, um, thank you everyone who joined, and AJ, you just bring so much knowledge. I could just keep talking to you, and I feel like we just, like, scratched just the surface.
oh yeah, there's so much more we could go into, and I love this. I feel like we have this great, um, intellectual, but more than intellectual chemistry, like on all of this creative stuff. So I'm so grateful to you for suggesting this and uh for
I think you
hosting.
suggested it first, but
Did I? Oh,
you had the great
great.
idea. Yeah. But yeah, we'll do another one, or we'll keep it going. And if anyone's on here, if anyone has questions, we'll make the way you can get in contact with AJ or myself available. And yeah, if you have any questions about Substack or writing or anything, I think I'm safe to say we're open books. I know AJ's
Yeah,
time is a little limited with how busy you are right now, but I know you're so generous with giving time to people.
I love talking creativity and writing and any of that stuff. It's like that's my what's the what's the word? It draws me to it. That's
It's your jam.
yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, thanks everybody for showing up. I guess it doesn't kick us off right at 2, but,
I guess not. There we go. We're
yeah.
learning. We're learning
Yeah.
everything. Um, yeah, I guess, oh, you know what? I will send us off with a quote from you, AJ, that I found on your Substack about page because it was beautiful. And you said, write your stories, tell the truth, and don't be silenced. And you
Mm.
quoted Ursula, how do you say the last name? Le Guin?
The win.
Le
I think
Guin.
it's yeah.
Yeah, Le Guin. Hard times are coming. When will be when we'll be wanting the voices of writers who can see alternatives to how we live now, can see through our fear-stricken society and its obsessive technologies to other ways of being, and even imagine real grounds for hope. We need writers who can remember freedom, poets, visionaries, realists of a larger reality. That just gave me chills.
Oh,
Yeah, do you want to maybe end with what inspired you with that quote?
sure. Yeah, I read that online shortly after she gave that talk. I think it was in 2014. And it spoke to me so much at that time, or maybe it was a little earlier than that, because getting your voice out there to a broad audience as a writer is really hard. It tends to take many years of work. And I had so many times in my life when I felt like maybe there was not a place for my voice in the world. And then when I heard this writer who I had admired since childhood saying this, I was like, okay, I have got to keep going because, like, even Ursula Le Guin is saying, hey, the world needs your voice, because I knew that I was one of those writers that was writing authentically like that. I wasn't just pumping out the next, like, Hollywood type story. I was writing from my experience um and striving to always become better. And that just inspired me to keep going no matter how long it takes. And it's
Mhm.
taken a really long time, but I'm not going to stop. And I'm also here to inspire other people on that journey.
You know what? That is the why. That's
That
your
is
why.
that
And
is the one.
it's in your content. It's in your TikTok
Mm.
videos, it's in your Instagram, and that's the change I've seen. I've seen it. It's
Oh,
now it's like you've leaned, yeah, into that.
kind of discovering the why. Oh, that's so amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm seeing, people are heading back to work. Thank you, Joe. I'm just seeing names, and Amadia and Katie and everyone who showed up, and AJ, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
everybody for joining us, and we'll hope to see you next time. We'll keep you posted.
yeah, yeah.
Great.
All
Okay.
right, have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You too.
See ya. Great, I'm ending. How to end.